Hello, this is Cryptolyze. I hope you are well. On this Friday, February 2, 2024, we meet today to talk about QNT, Quant's crypto. It's been a long time since I talked to you about this project, and it's important to talk about it now because there are a lot of things happening. And so, as usual, we are going to divide this video into two parts. Fundamental part, we will come back to what Quant is, its usefulness, where it comes from, its news. And then we will project ourselves onto the graphs to have short, medium, long-term prices. Purchase prices, selling price to be able to have a good evolution. So we already need to understand what Quant is. As for it being a level 1 blockchain, it's more than that, but we're going to stay simplistic. It's a level 1 blockchain. It's a blockchain which aims to provide developers with tools to being able to build decentralized applications, or being able to build any element that revolves around the notion of pure blockchain. And they really specialize in that. They are specialized in the notion of universal interoperability in the construction that they have carried out. Quant is a project which aims to make blockchain technology available to institutions and governments. They are really targeting businesses and governments. That's how they work. Currently, when we look at the notion of economic transit that we could have in the forms of CBDC, particularly in Europe, Quant plays a real role in it, in monetary transfers. He's not the only actor, there are 3 other actors, but in this case, Quant is one of these actors. And so that means that they have the technological capacity to be able to make the technical elements available for the construction of monetary transfers. We must really understand that Quant aims to provide tools for institutions and governments, not necessarily for any traditional user. We are in something that is different from a standard blockchain, for example in Phantom, in Solana, etc. Yes, technically, we are using a technology which is almost identical despite differences, but the vocation and structuring of the company and the DAO which is behind it is totally different. No, something which is 100 public, which aims to attract developers to attract users, a little bit like Solana or Ethereum. That is to say that I make blocks available in which the people will build decentralized applications that will ultimately attract users to use them and run my own blockchain. I'm going to make a communication. I'm going to focus my marketing around how magnificent I am, etc. Because I have to attract the developer who is working on another project, on another technology, etc. To show him that my technology is better, but it's different. As for their solution, it is not aimed at the traditional user. The goal is really to be able to structure a product for institutions and governments. And that's a little bit of what they had planned in 2022. I'll explain to you a little bit the return that there was in relation to that, in which their goal was, their solution had been completed since then. 2021. And the goal was really to work on 2022 on the notion of marketing this solution and everything that happens alongside it. Because their goal is really to offer a SaaS solution. So this directly means ledger as a service and offering services structured around this side. We're going to talk about tokenomics a little later, but it's also to show you that the site has changed greatly, okay? We were in this process to have the notion of specialization of interoperability with something which was still very branded, classic techno, okay? And there we have a communication that is much more open, much lighter, in which we have something that is much more dynamic with a structure around the blockchain economy. In which there is the notion of interoperability, which is highlighted and which is very, very important when we look at how they manage interoperability. It is no longer a notion of decentralized application in which we build an application on the blockchain. We will build an application on, in fact, an API which will take care of interfacing with all the other blockchains and which will have its own blockchain structure. And so it's something that is different. They launched this notion of having smart contracts which are agnostic of which network or which blockchain I am on. And that is really very interesting and very important. And that is which is interesting in account design. And that's also why it works very well behind the implementation of CBDCs, whether through payment management and payment interaction and the structuring of smart contracts around payments. And that's also why we have the possibility here of having a set of blockchains structured around accounts directly, no matter the language we use, no matter the blockchain we are in. By occurrence, there is only this that is noted on there, but there are many more that are taken care of, and many more that will know. Afterwards, there are limits. You have to understand that this type of solution is something that will be dependent on the account developers. All right? Unfortunately, this will be mostly related. If Quant doesn't want to, for example, interface with a particular blockchain, they won't do it. And we won't be able to do otherwise because we are built on Quant, so we will be dependent on Quant. We won't be able to say, okay, I'm building a solution that will be permissionless, so in which I need people to interface between this blockchain and that blockchain. I can't do that with Quant, and that's the problem it can have. And it's also the interest it can have at the level, for example, of CBDCs and governments in the use of Quant in the construction of their solutions. In terms of tokenomics, we find ourselves on a QNT which has a diluted valuation of 14 billion, so it's not huge. It's something which is rather coherent compared to the general state of the market, and which is complicated to see is that we cannot evaluate the structural volume that passes on Quant, nor the total value lock, okay, the TVL. So we cannot have the money that is blocked in the account because, in this case, we do not have this information. The information is not given because it is not public. It's different from what you can find on Solana, on Ethereum, etc. So you have to structure your thinking differently and similarly structure the potential evolution of the QNT which will be used in the form of governance or in the form of fees. But that doesn't prevent the project itself from being solid. The tech is solid, it's already used on big projects, and I think it will be used more and more because they provide something that will be compliant and which will be available in terms of blockchain. But what is the valuation of QNT compared to all that? This is the real question you need to ask yourself about the fundamental part. On the technical side, we have elements that are very interesting, you will see right away, in which we have a big acceleration, big retracement, rather classic ABC retracement, and in which we have a big wave 1 Elliott, big wave 2 Elliott, and we are preparing to make a big wave 3. Which is also interesting to see, it is that since we had the implementation of January 2022, we had a low which was noted with Celsius, and since then we have not broken the lows. And we are even holding up very, very well. If we look, since we had Celsius, we had a big acceleration on the August part. 2022 second, big acceleration on October 2022. And after that, we had a form of retracement structural with behind a retest of the acceleration zone. There is a small imbalance which has not yet been reprocessed, which is present here in the region of $74 up to potentially $63. But it is a project which potentially could be really very interesting, because we has a very good accumulation with an SC-STB spring which has been put in place, rupture, and here we are in a phase of retesting this bullish acceleration. We can go and look for the 68, but already at base, we are in the process of retest the 100, which is a level. Very important for QNT. What can we set as a target? So there are several ways to do it. We will do the usual two. We will first do the Elliottist waves in which we have 1 wave, 2 waves, 3. So it's simple. We take the Fibonacci retracement with the Fibonacci extension. We take the top, we take the retracement. We are going to look for the 1618 with a QNT around 700 at the end of the bull run with a very significant valuation of the project. So there it is. First typology. So that means an X6, X6. That also means that we would potentially find ourselves in a quant in the region of 10 billion diluted value. Okay, so in FDV we would be in the region of 10, 12 billion. But a project like Quant, if it ever really takes off, and we have a real use of QNT in institutional and government institutions, we could end up with a valuation that would perhaps be 2 or 3 times higher. To that, in which we could have a FDV in the vicinity of $30-35 billion. Therefore, in which we would have a very significant valuation of the project. Because at the same time, it is a project which is used by governments as an infrastructure layer. Once again, what is the role of the QNT, therefore the token, in promoting the use of its infrastructure? Again, this is always the question you need to ask yourself. And here we are on a project which is different from the rest. It is not a project in which we are going to have incentives to push people to come and build in their homes. It is not a project in which we are going to say, look, I have a great decentralized application which is going to be launched and on which I financed part of airdrop, which is going to arrive. We are not at all in the push of hyper-speculation. We are in something which is different, and that is why we must also pay attention to this. Are not the same markers in terms of representing the evolution of this crypto, and that is why we must analyze it differently and really have a very strong reflection. For me, I think that already retouching the TH is a very good objective, and it is something that could happen very quickly on QNT depending on different announcements that we could have, and in particular in the regulation part, which could happen because QUANT will in all cases be compliant. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to leave me a little like and a comment. It always makes me very happy. And don't forget that we'll meet on Sunday, February 4 at 18 for a live on YouTube, and in which we will do a joint live with CryptoMage, a great show, I can assure you. So it will be Sunday, February 4 at 18.